Well, we're on offensive coordinator watch here in the state of Mississippi with Kendall Briles in Arkansas. We'll see what happens there. Does he leave the Sam Pittman nest to join the young 36-year-old Zach Arnett and get complete and total autonomy? He's not going to get that at Arkansas. Now, I think he gets 70 to 80%, but there's a big, big gap. Y'all know, y'all work for, well, not all of you, some of you own your own company, own your own business. But there's a big difference between 70 to 80% autonomy and 100% autonomy. Remember this, Zach Arnett under Mike Leach had 100% autonomy running the defense and being the defensive coordinator. Remember, football is very militaristic. It was birthed out of the military model, okay? And what I mean by that is coaches for the last 100 years in football have been known and notorious for what? Micromanaging, strangling their assistant coaches, much less their offensive players, which is what Jimbo Fisher's been doing the last several years at Texas A&M, running an archaic, what I like to say, dinosaurian offense. 150-page playbook, takes forever to get the play in, whatever. Now, we'll see what happens with Starkville and Fayetteville with Kendall Briles and so on. But Jimbo Fisher made a good hire at offensive coordinator with Bobby Petrino. The question is, do you believe that Jimbo he's promised autonomy. Can it stay that way when things start going the wrong way in game 2, 3, or 4? We'll see. We want to welcome in Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com, A&M Aggies insider. He joins us on the Yuengling Lager guest line. So, Olin Buchanan, Bobby Petrino is a good hire. He is a hell of an offensive mind and play caller and better than Jimbo Fisher in that regard. Do you actually believe that after all these years that Jimbo Fisher is willing to give Bobby Petrino complete and total autonomy over the A&M offense?
Well, I don't know if it's complete and total. I don't want it to be complete and total. Sometimes you have a head coach. That's why they wear the headsets and say, hey, I want to run it now at this time. Hey, I covered Texas A&M when they had a 34-point lead over UCLA with 17 minutes to go, and the offensive coordinator kept throwing with a true freshman, been a college quarterback for about 20 minutes. And I would have loved for the head coach to say, hey, we need to run the football here. Stop throwing. That said, I think Jimbo Fisher has a lot of confidence in Bobby Petrino, and Jimbo Fisher acknowledges and realizes that what he was wanting to do wasn't working to the degree he needs it to work in the SEC, especially the SEC West. And I do believe that he's going to give Bobby Petrino all the reins and as much freedom as you can give an offensive coordinator, with the exception of that sometimes saying, hey, I want you to run it here for a little while. If he didn't want to do that, I think he would have brought in a younger guy. I think if you bring in Bobby Petrino and then start, handcuffing him, I think what does Bobby Petrino need this job for? If you start to handcuff him, Bobby Petrino showed that he'll leave a team in season.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
He'll get fired and get paid. Sure.
So if you're handcuffing him, who's to say that he wouldn't say, look, I don't need this, and walk off, and then how bad you look? No, I don't think you hire Bobby Petrino. Maybe a younger guy you do, and you put handcuffs on him. I don't think in this situation you hire Bobby Petrino and not let him do what he feels like he needs to do.
Okay. So, Olin Buchanan, Texas A&M Aggies insider, TexAgs.com on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, driven by the Ram trucks at Mac Hike and Flowood. Oh, I think this could be an absolute massive grease fire and could be a lot of fun to watch unfold. These are two guys that have done it, been head coaches, had success. Both of them think they know more than the other, I believe. Now,
what do you base that on?
You think this is – I just think watching how they've operated the last 20 years, you feel like there's enough oxygen in the room, and Jimbo can do enough give and take to allow Bobby to do what he wants to do. And let's say they're in a game against Auburn or Arkansas or Mississippi State, and they're not scoring enough points. And that, you know the intensity on a college football sideline in the moment. You feel like this thing could work?
Well, I mean, I think so. I don't think again a guy like Fisher's going to bring in, like I said, but a guy like Petrino if he's not ready to let the guy do what he does. So yeah, I think it can work. We'll see. Some people are saying right now it's a great hire. Some people Some people are saying it's a terrible hire. You know what? Nobody knows. Those saying it's a good hire doesn't know. Those saying it's a bad hire. You don't know. Let's see what we're saying this time next year. But I will say this: A&M needed to make a move. They needed to make to bring in a guy, if for no other reason. If you think Jimbo's offense is dinosauric, as you call it, or not, if for no other reason, you needed somebody to come in and call the plays, so Jimbo's not shuffling through 4 laminated pages and yelling at the officials, and then trying to get the right personnel in, and then having to use all your time outs before the second quarter, and then still getting late, false starts and delay a game penalty. So yeah, I mean, if for no other reason than having somebody else calling the plays, it's going to be better. But I have to admit, would it be my first choice personally? No, but just bringing in somebody else, I think, is going to make A&M offense better. The fact that Bobby Petrino has a track record in the SEC of being successful. And quite frankly, I know he coached Lamar Jackson, he had Ryan Mallett, but he's going to have more offensive talent. You wouldn't know it by what happened at A&M last year, but he's going to have more. He's going to have more offensive talent to work with than he's ever had. And if A&M had scored one more touchdown a game last year, and they didn't, but I'm just saying if they have it for sake of argument, they're 10-2. So if he can come in and boost that offense and get them to score 10 to 14 points a game, more than they did, then the potential for A&M having a bounce back year is pretty good. So, like I said, he wouldn't personally be my first choice, but
who would have been? Who did you?
I don't know.
Okay.
People were saying they really liked Garrett Riley at TCU. I think Garrett Riley is looking for a head coaching job, and I don't blame him. And if he can't get one, why not stay at TCU where they got things rolling? I think there have been other names. There's so many of them there, and so many of them are already at other places now. What I wonder about is what changed in the last month, because as you know, it all came out. Our Billy Lucci broke it a month ago that Bobby Petrino was a candidate, and then he's not. And then he goes to UNLV, and then he's leaving them.
I got a theory on that. Do you want to hear it?
Well, let's hear it.
Okay.
Yeah, we probably have the same theory, but go ahead.
All right. Olin Buchanan, Aggies Insider on the Out of Bounds show. My theory is there wasn't near as much interest of going to work for Jimbo because of what you and I just kind of laid out the last 7 or 8 minutes. And that younger guys definitely looked at it and said, I don't believe that he will relinquish the power or give the autonomy, even at whatever percentage you want to debate, Olin, 80, 90%. And maybe some of the guys that he coveted were like, no, thank you. And so he rounded back to Bobby Petrino, and probably, what do you think they offered Petrino? $1.2 million or something like that plus?
I don't know, but I'm sure it's going to be, I would not be surprised if it's closer to $2 million.
Okay, 1.5 plus. I wouldn't either.
A&M pays their assistants. A&M pays their assistants really well. So I would quite frankly, I'd be surprised if it's 1.2 million. But okay. I don't know. I'm not going to act like I'm an expert on that right now. I have no idea.
Okay. What do you think about my theory? on why he circled back.
I think there was something to it. What I think happened was that kind of along the lines that you were saying, that I'm guessing that Bobby Petrino wanted some assurances of how much control he was going to have on the offense, and Jimbo wasn't ready to do that. He may have had some other guys in mind, and a guy like, maybe it was Garrett Riley, maybe it wasn't, said, hey, man, I'm playing for a championship, and by the way, I'm looking for a head coaching job and things like that. And as he, meaning Fisher, kept looking at it, he kept thinking, you know what, Trino's my best option. I'm going to call him back, and I'm going to relent and say, okay, I'm going to give you this much control, the control you want. And then Petrino said, yeah, I'll leave UNLV. And who wouldn't? I mean,
right.
there are people that have already I've seen on social media criticizing Petrino for leaving UNLV. I mean, 100 coaches out of 100 is going to make that lateral, that move. You're going to be in the same job. So,
no doubt.
But that's kind of what I think happened. But your theory is just as valid as any.
Okay. What made him do this? Because, I mean, Jimbo holds all the aces, as you know, with A&M because of the fat, massive contract. He doesn't answer to Ross Bjork. Probably doesn't even answer to the chancellor. So do you think it was maybe some people that he maybe has cultivated a relationship with over the last 5 years or whatever he's been at A&M? Some big top 5, top 10 type donors that basically over a beer or bourbon at his ranch said, Jimbo, we love you, but to not get run at some point, you're going to have to make some changes. I mean, who could actually, I don't want to say put little pressure on him, but at least question him there, considering he holds all the aces, Olin?
Well, I'll tell you this. A&M and their boosters have the money to buy him out right now if they want to.
Sure.
I know that for a fact, and I think that was something that was thrown around. And I think Jimbo acknowledged toward the end of the year that, you know what, the whole idea of calling us plays, the way college football has gotten so big, it's just a smart thing to do. He was underwhelming offensively. Now, part of that, let's not just completely dump everything on Jimbo. And nobody likes to hear this, but A&M had just a catastrophic number of injuries and their offensive line, and then they had guys that were being suspended, act like knuckleheads. They had some issues beyond that, but it all, for whatever the case, the offense was pathetic until the LSU game, but it was pathetic all most of the year. And I think Fisher himself acknowledged we've got to make changes, and the changes are going to start with me. You just said, hey, he doesn't have to do anything. He can get fired and still get $80 million and live a life of leisure. And It sounds pretty good to me, actually. But I think to say that Jimbo was strong-armed by some donors or thing, I don't think that's accurate. I really think that he self-evaluated and said, hey, you know what, I've got to make some changes, and this is what I'm going to do. Look, the most successful coach in college history, and I think that sticks with Jimbo, is Nick Saban, and Nick Saban has somebody else call his plays.
Sure.
Perhaps arguably the most inept head coach in college football history, arguably, is Ed Orgeron. And he won a national championship letting someone else call the play. So I think it became I think Jimbo just saw the realization that the best way to maximize your offensive efficiency is to get somebody else to call the plays, and he's going to bring in somebody that he trusts. I don't think he would, along the kind of like you were saying, I don't think he would maybe trust his offense to a younger guy. I think he's going to trust it to a guy that he respects. And now, is it going to be a grease fire? Is it going to blow up? Maybe. But what if they end up scoring 40 points a game?
Right. No, I'm with you on the talent.
And we don't know. We won't know until next season. And if you do know, tell me what the lottery numbers are too, because I want to know that.
No, I'm with you. Hey, I'm paid to,
No, I'm
speculate.
not attacking you.
No, I'm with you. I'm having fun with you. Look, I want to throw this out too. One of the best quotes I've heard in football or sports is too many lines in the den. So I want to ask you this, Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. With the Bobby Petrino hire, Jimbo Fisher now has former head coaches always want to be head coaches again. He has DJ Durkin, Steve Adazio, Bobby Petrino, and one more. Oh, yeah. So three former head coaches in the den. Is that too many lines in the den in College Station, Olin?
I don't know. Again, we'll see. I was very underwhelmed with the job that DJ Durkin did, and yet they were like in the top 30, I think, 35 maybe in points allowed. And like I said earlier, if they'd scored 10 more points a game, they're 10-2. I mean, no, 7 more points a game, they're 10-2. So offensive line was not good. They had a crazy number of injuries, lost a couple of starters for the year. So, so I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm looking at things on, from all angles. Bobby Petrino, is it going to work? I don't know. But I know what wasn't working.
Right.
What wasn't working was what they were doing.
Right.
So I'm all for, giving him chance. And, people bring up what happened with him 11 years ago. I'm like, how much penance does someone have to serve? Right? I mean,
nobody can. People joke about it. I think having beers at their watering hole or on Twitter. I agree. I mean, nobody cares about it. Look, the guys is a phenomenal offensive coach and play caller, and that's all that matters. I mean, the motorcycle ride and the blind girl and all that. I mean, you're right. It's
right. I mean, this is the SEC West. I think is the. I guess it's coming the division of forgiveness with Hugh Freeze at Auburn, and Lane Kiffin and his issues at Ole Miss, and even though you hate to put the sins of the father on a kid, but even Kendall Brown, being at Baylor when all that stuff happened. I'm not saying it's on him at all, but a lot of times there's the guilt by association. So I don't think even and I even hesitate to bring it up, but remember the tragedy of Notre Dame when Brian Kelly was the coach up there.
I remember that.
The young man died on. So this is the division of forgiveness, I guess. Look, if A&M is good, eventually, no one will care. And quite frankly, I personally think that Bobby Petrino is going to be at Texas A&M as offensive coordinator for one season. And if they're really good, he'll probably get hired away to. You mentioned maybe he's looking to get a better job as a head coach, because head coaches always want to be head coaches. And if they don't make significant progress, cut him loose and look for somebody that can help you.
Yeah. I wonder if Bobby could do that. I don't know if there's quite enough gas in the tank. Maybe 61 is not old anymore, but
is it to me? I'm 61.
There you go. Yeah, could Bobby Petrino parlay that into like a good G5 job? Obviously, much better than Missouri State. That's a good question, Olin Buchanan. If he makes Connor Wigman a dude, and A&M scores, can he parlay that into like a like a Cincinnati? Well, they're going into the Big 12, but anyway, a good G5 job. That's a or maybe even out in the Pac-12, maybe somebody would need someone. Okay. Out of bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Blake Scott's got a question for you.
Yeah.
Blake, you're talking to Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com.
Real quick, just because this is like the big thing. We talk about Will Muschamp strangles his offenses when he was at Florida or South Carolina. We've seen Ed Orgeron do that. He stepped in and caused the loss to Troy by strangling the offense. Jimbo Fisher is a pro-style, under center, I formation, loves that methodical approach. Petrino is the opposite. Lamar Jackson, spread them out, run them out, throw. It puts a different stress on your team and on your defense. Philosophically, is Jimbo ready to do this full speed ahead? We're going to be spread them out and run and gun type mentality, or is that still a nervous thing in College Station?
I don't think Jimbo Fisher knows football, and he knows what's going on. Jimbo Fisher knows what Bobby Petrino does. I don't think Jimbo Fisher is going to make that hire if he's not willing to let Bobby Petrino run his offense. And I don't think Bobby Petrino is going to come here if he's told that he can't run his offense. So the answer to that question is I believe that Bobby Petrino is going to have the green light to run his offense. And I think Jimbo Fisher will still have some influence, like every head coach will. But I think he's going to I don't think he's going to hire a guy and say, okay, now do what I do. If he was going to do that, I think he would have hired a much younger guy that it would be, I hate to use the phrase this way, but I don't know what else to say. That would be easier to control. I think if you hire Bobby Petrino, a 61-year-old man that doesn't need the money and doesn't need the job as a stepping stone necessarily to enhance his career, he already has a pretty good career. He doesn't need that, so you don't hire that guy unless you're going to give him the authority,
sure,
or whatever word you want to pick to do what you've hired him to do.
I got 60 seconds. When you were with Rivals or other stops, did you ever have an opportunity to interview Mike Leach?
Oh yeah. In fact, first of all, I love Coach Leach. I interviewed him a couple times, but one day I was living in Nashville, Franklin, Tennessee, actually, and I had a neighbor who had me over for dinner, and we were good friends, but we'd known each other for just a few months, and I got a call because I had a call in for Mike Leach, and Mike Leach called everybody back, everybody.
Yes.
And I got a call, and it said Mike Leach. I said, I got to go take this. And my neighbor's like, Mike Leach is calling you? And I didn't say he calls everybody. I just said, yeah, sure. And so I'll say this, to this day, my neighbor was never more impressed with me.
I love it.
For when Mike Leach called me.
That's cool.
So, yeah, Mike Leach was amazing, and we're all the world's not as good a place without him in it.
I could not agree more. Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. Thanks, Olin. Appreciate you.
You bet.
Olin joined us on the Yuengling Lager guest line. We are the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone ESPN. Thanks for hanging out with us. And the show is brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your car and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. If you're looking for excellent customer service when something does happen, unfortunately, to your car or home, well, that's presented by Farm Bureau Insurance, favorites.com. Would love for you to hit Apple Podcast or Spotify and search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds. Also, would love for you to go to Bulldog Burger on Lake Harbor in Ridgeland and have an amazing lunch. Apple Podcast, search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds. We'll see you tomorrow.